playoffs are fast approaching for both of the ice hockey teams, but why are the men struggling down the stretch? And the women's playoff seeds are set, but just how far can they go? Find out these answers and a lot more tonight on Bobcat Breakdown. And we thank you for tuning in tonight on Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Tom Albanese, and joined alongside me is our distinguished panel of hockey experts. So starting with Jordan Katz and Nick Dench. Gentlemen, how are you both doing today?
Doing well. How about you?
How are you, Tom?
Doing well. And also joining us for the very first time on Bobcat Breakdown, Rob Ciambra. Rob, how's it been going?
Doing awesome. It's good to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. So, gentlemen, let's get started. The men's ice hockey team suffered 2 losses, 2-1 against Cornell and 3-1 to Colgate, 2 teams that rank in the top 20 of the USCHO.com poll. The losses dropped the Bobcats to 21-8-5 overall and 11-6-3 in ECAC play, and moves them down to 3rd place in the standings. So, guys, the 3 losses in a row for Rand Pecknold's squad, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. What has been the biggest issue with this team over the last few weeks? Rob, let's start with you.
Well, the loss of Jordan Katz has greatly affected this team. His aggressive play along the boards and on the power play, you know, he's got that really sharp wrist shot, and it's really affecting. He has just a presence in the locker room as well. I think it's really taken a toll on this team these last few games.
I find it very hard to believe that one player missing with this offense. This team's offense is 2nd, 3rd in the country at most points of this season. I find it very hard to believe it's one player. I think it's the consistency. You see them one period coming out, they're very physical, they're extremely willing to shoot, get to the rebounds, crash the net, and then at other times they're very complacent, they're backing off, they're letting the teams enter the zone easily. And I think that's their biggest issue. They need to find a sense of consistency if they want to get back on track and go back to where they were last year in the NCAA tournament.
I'm actually with Rob. I think Jordan Katz does make a big impact. But I agree with you. You know, part of the success of a team is dealing with injuries. You have to deal with injuries and you have to deal with setbacks. And this team hasn't found a way or resolve during this setback for Jordan Katz or during any of the injuries. Dan Federico just got hurt. Connor Clifton's been banged up, and they really have not gelled as a team completely without these guys. And if you're going to be a championship team, Tom, the big deal here is that the difference between last year's team and this year's team is now last year's team stayed healthy, but I felt that last year's team was more together. I think this year's team doesn't have the same camaraderie and the same cohesiveness as last year's team had. Definitely.
Now, the Bobcats have 2 more games remaining. on the road against St. Lawrence and Clarkson. Quinnipiac lost to St. Lawrence earlier this season at High Point Solutions Arena, and they fought hard in a 6-3 win over Clarkson. So, gentlemen, how is the team going to fare this weekend, and what seed will they ultimately receive for the ECAC playoffs? Jordan, let's start with you.
I think they're going to get 2 wins, and maybe that's me being optimistic, and maybe that's me thinking that they can bounce back here. But I think they wind up with, at worst, one of the top 3 seeds. I think that's a lock to me. I don't know if they definitely get both wins this weekend. I'd like to think that they can. I'd like to think that they're able to bounce back off a tough loss on a tough series, easily one of the toughest series since I've been here. Nick, I'll say 2 wins, but it's not confident.
I think they split it specifically because I don't know whether Danny Federico is going to be playing, and Connor Clifton's suspended for Friday for his 3rd game misconduct this season, so that's a big thing with me as well.
And you don't know if Jordan
Thomas is going to play, so they're still very banged up. But I think they lose on Friday because you're not sure who they're going to have, when they're going to be able to produce. I think Saturday they come in. They only need 1 point for a first-round bye, so they need to keep that in the back of their mind. They can get that 1 point in one of these 2 games. They're they get an extra week to be healthy and an extra week to figure out how they're going to play in the playoffs like they did last year.
I agree with Nick. I think they're going to lose on Friday just because they have so many injuries right now. We don't know when Federico's coming back, and with Clifton being gone, Corey Hibbler's probably going to have to drop back to D, so you have to add in another forward because they don't have another defenseman to fall back on right now. But I think they can come back strong for a win on Saturday as well.
Look, neither one of these two teams should, in theory, give them trouble. Let's call a spade a spade. They are better than both these two teams, even without the injuries. They should get 2 wins here. I'm with you guys on the hesitation of saying, no, this team's not going to get 2 wins, and I'm with you guys on that. But maybe something was figured out in the 2 losses. Maybe they finally got the spark they needed in those 2 losses and said, look, listen, we got to do something about this. This is 4 or 5, and we don't know when we're getting these guys back in. It's on our shoulders, and I'm looking specifically at Connor Jones, Kellen Jones, Matthew Pekka, Travis St. Dennis, guys that have been here before, Corey Hibbler as well, guys that have been here before, the guys that made that run last year. It's your time to step up. Go do it.
I'm actually not too concerned about having Hibbler drop down, or even Braden Sherbanen. They're both listed as defenders for this team. They came into the school as a defender. They got transitioned up to forward by Rand Pecknold and the coaching staff. I'm not too concerned about them playing defense. They both stepped into it very well on Saturday. So that's not my big thing. I think it's going to be the scoring and their consistency. And without the players, Jordan Thomas, we're not sure, but without Federico and Clifton, who's one of their better offensive defenders, they need to find a way to get shots to the net and get somebody in front of the net. That's their huge thing. They don't get enough people in front of the net. Bryce Van Vabran's the only guy on this team who consistently crashes the net.
Yeah, there's been several times, especially in the games against Cornell and Colgate, where they had opportunities where there was open nets, but unfortunately they just couldn't do anything with those situations. And going back to the injuries, guys, obviously that, along with other players on the team, this is obviously something that Rand Pecknold has to take into consideration. So now let me put you guys in the shoes of Rand Pecknold for this next question here. What would you guys tell your team, being in the current position of where they are now, to try to get these 2 must-need victories, as it would appear to show this weekend? So, Nick, let's start with you on that one.
I think you got to say, guys, go 1 period at a time, go 1 shift at a time. They're looking too much at the big picture. They know they're almost guaranteed an NCAA tournament spot at this point, and they've known it for a couple weeks. They need to get back to the basics. 1 shift at a time, 1 period at a time, then 1 game at a time, then 1 weekend. If they start focusing too much in the future, how they're going to do in the NCAA tournament, I think that's what's going to hurt them. And I think that's what's been hurting them. He has to start telling them, guys, it's 1 shift at a time. You can't win a game if you lose every shift.
I don't know if it's actually on Rand. I think it's on the players right now. I think the senior leadership of Connor Jones and Kellen Jones, please show yourselves. Do something, anything. Show some fire. Show some passion. There's no fire on the first line right now. Why, I don't know. This is the biggest stretch of the season. To come out in the Cornell game and the Colgate game especially, and come out flat in 2 of the 3 periods, absolutely inexcusable, Rob. Somebody's got to step up.
Definitely. I agree with you, but I also have to agree with Nick as well. And another thing I've been noticing, the defense, in the defensive zone, they believe it's some guys open. Like, for example, the first goal against Colgate, a guy was wide open. Spank had a just wide open shot and just sniped Michael Gartsy. Someone's got to get down, block that shot, or just tries to take the puck away from him.
Yeah, that's absolutely something we saw last year. This team was not afraid to get in front. They were probably the nation's leader by 50 or 60 block shots last year. This year, they're a little more hesitant to do it, and you see players kind of shying away. On the penalty kill, they're still very good at it, but the rest of the time, they're not getting in the shooting lanes, and they're really opening up shots for the other team.
That's my exact reason, though, as to why I think the players have to take an onus, because it's not like the coaching style of this team's really changed from last year to this year. It's just the fact that, and especially in the last couple games, I don't see the fire. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's, losing guys and going down and people saying, listen, we're not as good anymore. But you can't think that way as a player. You've got to bounce back and you've got to rebound somehow, Tom.
Absolutely, Jordan. And obviously you guys talked about, the leadership on this team. So that leads me into this next question. So what players in particular need to step up for this Quinnipiac team in these final 2 games? And once they clinch their spot in the ECAC playoffs at that point as well. So Rob, let's kick it over to you first.
I'm going to say Travis St. Dennis. He hasn't been playing bad, but I think he's got a lot more in him this season. You know, he's been playing a really aggressive offensive zone, really. He's great with his back checking as well, but I think he's got a lot more in him in terms of goal scoring and setting up scoring plays.
I think the biggest player that we need to keep an eye on going forward, freshman Sam Annis. Where did he go? This kid he's still the nation's leading scorer as a freshman, yes, but that's because he had a ridiculous first season. Where has he been? He had 2 goals on the road against Yale and Brown, yes, but at home he has been non-existent. He's afraid to shoot the puck almost, and this is the one kid going in. Well, we didn't really know who he was, but once he moved up to that first line with the Joneses after Quenneville got hurt, he went hard and he fired everything at the net. Shoot the puck. He was the one guy we could rely on as fans and as media to really shoot the puck and make games exciting. He's not doing it anymore. He's averaging maybe 2 shots a game now.
It's going to be cliche, but everybody. I mean, they really just as a team just need to rally together and do something. Sam Annis, you mentioned, he was going to be the first guy I talked about. I don't know where Connor Jones has been. I don't know if he went early on spring break, but he had opportunities in the slot in the Cornell game that he just couldn't tee up. The defense and the back line specifically, I mean, they're letting players get past them on a breakaway opportunity in Colgate specifically. Tolkien and Barron both got beat to a puck when they started from the point, and the opposing player started from the slot in his own end, and the puck got beat to the puck at center ice. You can't have that happen. I think Michael Gartig's been good. I don't think he's been great. I still don't know if I trust him in a big spot. So pretty much, Tom, everybody.
Yeah, maybe this experience, especially down the stretch, is starting to get to some of these players. Even Sam Annis being a freshman, maybe just not used to this experience when it matters most down the stretch. So thanks, guys, for all of your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Nick Dench will sit down with women's hockey assistant captain Olivia Brackett. Stay with us.
Bobcat Shop, located at 1010 Sherman Avenue in Hamden. Your #1 choice for Bobcat merchandise. The Bobcat Shop features 2 floors of countless styles and colors. With a full 19,000 square foot screen printing and embroidery operation on the premises, Campus Customs and Simplify can design and decorate any garment or promotional product as quickly as needed. Stop in and say hi.
Back to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm joined by a very special guest, Olivia Brackett. Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you.
Well, Coach Seeley gave you an A more than halfway through the year this season. What added pressure did that give you on and off the ice?
I wouldn't say there was any pressure added. Nothing really much has changed either. Being a class of 6, I feel like coming in, I knew that I had to be a leader on and off the ice if I had an A on my jersey or not.
All right, and as one of the senior leaders, as you mentioned, on the team, how do you keep those younger players' minds off the national rankings? You guys have been on those all year.
Yeah, at the beginning and throughout the year, we try to lay it out on the table, not to look too far ahead, stay in the present, and just keep working every day at practice, shift by shift, and the outcome will determine.
Do you have any special ways of keeping their minds off of it?
No, we just every day at practice, just work hard, know where you're at, and know your role on the team.
And looking forward to this weekend, you guys have the exact same matchup as last year's playoffs. What does the team have to do to beat St. Lawrence this time around?
Details. It's going to come down to details, determination, and dedication probably. We just really have to play our game, our system, for the full 60 minutes in order to beat them, and we'll see the outcome at the end.
Facing Carl McDonald, that's got to be a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, we just can't really shoot at her glove. So we're going to shoot low blocker and hope for the best.
And, I mean, you guys have that Frozen 4 banner up there in the arena. Has that added any pressure for you guys going forward into the season?
No pressure, just probably excitement. It's an extra perk, obviously. Quinnipiac has worked hard to host it, and we have set ourselves up for this position. So now we just have to keep working hard for these playoffs, and we'll see what happens once again.
Do you think against the top teams, you guys have beaten Boston College, you've beaten Cornell, you've played with Clarkson and Harvard, does that help you guys?
Yeah, we know it's in the back of our minds, obviously. We know that when we do play our system in the full 60 minutes that any team is beatable. And if we stick to it, any given day, any best team, worst team could lose to anyone.
And if you guys do end up making the NCAA tournament, how do you think the team can do?
I have total belief in our team. So if we do come out shaking the first period or whatnot, we just bring it back together. We're lately have been a comeback team, so once again, I believe anything can happen.
You guys think you can shake off those nerves if you get all the way over there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep.
All right, thanks, Olivia.
Thank you.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken with cheese for just over $4, giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. QCash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. We're now going to shift over from the men and go to the women because, as we know, the playoffs for them begin this Friday. The team earned wins at previously number 3 ranked Cornell and at Colgate. And at the Colgate game, history was made as Kelly Babstock, who's only the first women's hockey player in school history to achieve 100 points for her career, but she doubled that against Colgate, achieving her 200th point. So, gentlemen, let's start on the lighter end with this. What has Kelly Babstock meant to this hockey program at Quinnipiac? Rob, let's go to you first.
Kelly Babstock has set so many records here. She's just been an awesome player, probably one of Coach Seeley's best recruits. She has set so many records and goals for future Bobcats to aspire to, shoot for in their careers here.
One of the best recruits. She's the best recruit by far. I'm sorry, Victoria Vigilante is a great recruit, but when you have a player who's 5 points away from tying the all-time school record for points, men and women, she's probably one of the best recruits that's ever going to come through this school in any sport. So she has meant so much to this program. She's gotten them on the national map. She's gotten them records. She's second in active players in career points behind Christine Best.
Yeah, but Dench, what about what the future holds for them?
That wasn't the question.
I think, hold on.
You guys could go on.
Rob brings up a good point.
He does.
What she has meant to this team past the records and whatnot is that she has put them on that national stage that you mentioned. And she has installed, or she has helped to install, a winning mentality in this locker room.
Thank you.
And has put them really in a great position to, if they made some noise in the ECAC, probably wind up in the NCAAs.
Yeah, I mean, she means so much to this program. My big thing is how is she going to do in the playoffs? Last year she got stoned by St. Lawrence at Carl McDonald. This year I know she's going to have a chip on her shoulder for that. And she doesn't have that whole milestone barrier anymore. She got stuck at 99 for quite some time. She went 197, 198, 199, 200 in a weekend.
Can this team beat St. Lawrence if she doesn't show up? And I guess we'll go to you and then go to Rob.
I think they can. They have proven that they can. And, I mean, they brought in some great freshmen. Emma Woods has done a great job with Cheyenne Darkangelo, the transfer student, up on that top line. But the line's supporting her. You got the defense. Everybody has been so good for this team, and they're coming together even more towards the end of the season than they did at the beginning of the season.
Rob?
Well, I mean, this is obviously a different team, but Carmen McDonald still looks good. I don't know what's in store for the weekend aside from her being the usual brick wall she is.
Well, guys, we're going to have to find out this weekend when they play St. Lawrence. So now let's dive into Babstock's team. So with the wins over the weekend, Quinnipiac earned the 4th seat in the ECAC playoffs. And as you guys have just pointed out, they're going to be playing the 5th seeded Saints of St. Lawrence beginning on Friday. So, guys, what do you guys see out of this matchup, as you just touched on? But what is going to be the key for the Bobcats to get the job done against St. Lawrence? So, Rob, let's go back to you.
They're going to have to stop Mel DeRoche, their leading point scorer, and score on Carmen McDonald, which is nearly impossible. But, they tied him earlier this year. They had a tough loss later in the year. But, if there's anything, last year they may have gotten shut out twice in the playoff series. But that second game that went to 3 overtimes, still shows that she's not invincible. The Bobcats do have a chance, but it's up to them.
And Nick, what about you?
I think it comes down to what Olivia talked about a little bit earlier, where they have to stick to a game plan. They know McDonald's glove is her strong suit. Yes, her blocker is still extremely good, but they know shooting blocker side is probably the better option. And outside of that, I think just throwing the puck on net. You need to make a goalie make a save from regardless. And we saw last year, Kristen Eklund scored from behind the goal line almost. Just if they can put the puck on net, McDonald has holes. They know they can beat her. They just need to find a way to beat her on a more consistent basis.
I think the big deal for this team is you got to be solid on the special teams. I think anytime you talk about a playoff atmosphere, if you can have a good power play and a good penalty kill, you have a good chance to control the game, especially with the way this team can play 5-on-5. You mentioned that top line earlier. That top line is one of the key attributes for this team is the way they can score. It's actually a deeper team than you might think, or just looking at it. I think the special teams is a big deal. You mentioned scoring for this team going up against one of the best goaltenders. I actually think the defensive side might be a bigger key. The reason why is you sort of expect to not be able to put the puck in the net. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's sort of the way you have to look at it. You got to throw shots on as much as you can. Completely agree with that. Now, but you have to be solid defensively. You have to be solid defensively for the entire 2 or 3 games, whatever it is, because if you're not, the St. Lawrence team's going to beat you.
Now, guys, let me just get a quick prediction from you. Are they going to win against St. Lawrence and move on to the semifinals? Yes or no? Excuse me, Nick. How about we start with you?
Yeah, I think they will. I think it's going to be a 3-game series. I think that's what everybody in the conference expects it to be because these teams are so evenly matched. We've been almost previewing this matchup for 3 weeks now because of how evenly matched these teams are and where they were in the conference. It was just a matter of where. I know the girls are extremely happy they're going to be here. I know St. Lawrence probably doesn't like that too much. It's not exactly an easy drive. But I think the girls win in 3. I think they're going to need that support cast. The special team is going to be huge. They were on a 10-game power play goalless streak. They broke that at Cornell. That was huge for them, getting a confidence back. But the supporting cast is going to be huge. Last year, the girls who scored against Carmen McDonald were Kristen Eklund, who had her only goal of the season, and Amanda Collin had 2 in that triple overtime game. That was the only goal scoring they had against McDonald last year.
But Nick, aren't the Saints going to have more motivation making the trip down here like last year? You know, maybe it's going to take them 3 games again, but I think they're going to pull, the Saints are going to pull this out in 3 games again. Maybe it's going to take a couple of overtime games again, but, you know, they have a lot of motivation taking the long trip here. They know they're just as good as the Bobcats this year, no matter if it's a different team or not, you know?
It's funny you mentioned the struggles on the power play, and we've never seen that here on this campus. That's sarcasm for those who didn't know.
Last year.
I'll take St. Lawrence in 3, but I'm not that confident about that. And the reason why I'm not that confident about it is because I think this team's a different team than last year. I think the 3-game series really sort of gave them motivation, like you mentioned, and I'll be confident saying there won't be a 3 overtime game this time.
Oh, I want
but
4.
But if you saw a game or 2 go to overtime, that wouldn't shock me. I think the big difference in this series is, again, that top line. I think if that top line has a good series, Tom, they can pull it out in 3 or maybe 2.
I think going back to Rob's point, St. Lawrence, yes, they're going to be motivated coming down. As much as the girls won't admit it, that banner in the corner saying Frozen 4, Hampton, Connecticut, March 21st and 23rd, that's motivation in itself. They won't admit it too often. I've talked to a bunch of them this year. They don't admit it that often. But that's motivation for them, and I know that they're going to be playing for that. They want that NCAA tournament berth. They want to fly out to Minnesota or Wisconsin. That's probably where they would end up if they did. They want to fly out there and give those national powerhouses a game.
All right, guys, let's move on. So now let's go against Jordan and Rob very quickly. So let's just say the Bobcats do come out of the series and they move on to the semifinals. What's going to be the Bobcats' strategy going to have to be against a team that they're likely going to have to face, being Harvard, Clarkson, or Cornell? How about we start with Nick?
Strong defense. Strong defense is going to be huge because Harvard and Harvard and Clarkson, have 2 of the best goalies in the conference outside of Carmen McDonald. You have Emers Mashmeyer for Harvard and Erica Howe, who's won the goalie of the year twice in the ECAC for Clarkson, and then Lawrence Labondek's not really a slouch either for Cornell. So defense is going to be big for them. And then consistent scoring, getting that first goal, and if they don't, being able to fight from behind. Olivia mentioned it again earlier. We have been fighting from behind. They're going to need to keep doing that if they want to win.
I think that actually the fact that they fought from behind actually gives them a little more confidence if they were to get past St. Lawrence. I truly believe that St. Lawrence is their toughest matchup. The reason why is I think the series last year. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series for both teams. If they were to get past St. Lawrence, I don't think there's a team in the upper echelon that they can't take. And the reason why is because of the success that they had. Talking about the Cornell game where they go down and they come back and they win. I mean, that's one of the best teams, Rob, not only in the conference, but one of the better teams in the nation. And to be able to come from behind and win, not to mention the fact that they had success against Boston College here. So I don't know if there's a team that's going to scare these Bobcats. So if they were to get past the St. Lawrence team, I could see them making a deep run, absolutely.
I got to agree with Nick on the defense first. You know, they're going to play a bunch of tough teams no matter what, from here on out in the postseason. They need to defend Chelsea Layden or whoever's in goal for the game. You know, it's most likely to be Layden, but they have to just play defense first, get down and block shots, and then take the offense second. You know, even if they have to sort of set back in some sort of conservative trap and then take advantage of the chances they get, then that's what they got to do to keep the other team from scoring.
Something to look for, Tom, is that Chelsea Layden has had the inconsistency, for lack of a better word, from the majority of this season. Chelsea Layden may play the biggest factor in this team getting past St. Lawrence and then going deeper into the tournament.
And we've talked about it from a coaching standpoint, where Rick Seeley's very good at lighting fires under his players.
Right.
And he did that with Chelsea Layden, taking her out a couple weekends ago and starting Sydney Rossman, who got another shutout against Brown. So he knows how to light a fire, and Layden played much better, probably her best weekend since November.
All right, guys. Now, we're going to have one final prediction from each of you guys. That's going to be a debate among all three of you. Is Rick Seeley's squad, in the end, with all of the pieces that he has, is he going to be able to take this team to their first NCAA tournament? And if they are in the tournament, can they make a run to the Frozen Four? Rob, let's go over to you first.
Well, this team's full of surprises. I think Coach Lee can take them into the NCAA tournament. The Frozen Four is what I'm questionable about, but you know, there's no doubt they have a lot more motivation because it's on their home ice. But right now, I have to say no to the Frozen Four, but yes to the NCAA tournament.
I don't think they can make the NCAA tournament just because of where they are in the pairwise. It's a little difficult. I see them beating St. Lawrence, but then they have to go up to probably Clarkson. Clarkson's a very difficult place to play, and I know they love Chiel-Arena's horn. So that gets on their nerves. And then if they do somehow get into that spot because of Cornell falling apart, they did fall apart last week, and if they can get into that spot, I think they don't make the Frozen Four, because then they're going to have to go through either Minnesota or Wisconsin.
Yeah, look, the answer is no. I mean, they've had a great season, no doubt about it. But there's too many questions on the back line. There's too many questions in net. Tom, I don't see it.
All right, guys, very good indeed. Now, that's going to do it for this special hockey edition of Bobcat Breakdown. Make sure you follow the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network on Twitter at QBSN, and follow Q30 Sports on Twitter at Q30 Sports. And you can check out this episode and all other previous episodes of the Bobcat Breakdown on www.q30television.com. For our hockey analysts, Jordan Katz, Nick Dench, and Rob Ciambra, I'm Tom Albanese. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.